What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and little hangover from Derby season, we will say, but we still have a fun card for you guys to cover. It is the Win and You're In Royal Ascot Stakes down in South Florida at Gulfstream Park. Two separate ones for both the fillies and the boys. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. We greatly appreciate. Again, if you guys enjoy the podcast, please go down below the video player, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button with the notification bell. We would greatly appreciate it because even though the Derby season is done, the Triple Crown season, of course, is not. Preakness week comes up next weekend, and then the Belmont, of course, will be 3 weeks after that. Tons of podcasts, tons of content coming your guys' way. Not one you're going to want to miss. So again, subscribe for upcoming podcasts. But of course, you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, we have podcasts every single week here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern is Pacific Horseplayers with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson. Again, if you didn't watch that one, that was posted last night for Santa Anita's Late Pick 5 on Saturday. So after this podcast, go on ahead over there and check out that one. Wednesday, of course, every single night here with Bettin N Boozin at 8 p.m. Eastern, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Picks and Ponies. Howard, Pete, and Paul cover a really nice day at Belmont at the Big A. So don't want to miss that either tomorrow night. All those podcasts will, of course, also be posted in audio form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchors, where you can find all of those. So if you're more of an audio person, please go rate, review, and subscribe over there. Bettin N Boozin at Bettin N Boozin Podcast for TikTok and Instagram. Been posting a lot more short form content over there. So again, please go follow us over there. We had a ton of followers, of course, join for the Derby season. So that's always greatly appreciated. Power picks, guys. The Derby ones did pretty well, of course. If you guys cashed along with those, but the power picks train never stops. These are our normal power picks. $21.60 a month. That comes out to about $4.99 a weekend. You get at least 2 full tracks of price plays, spot plays, pick 5 grids, everything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. The HHH Racing Podcast has you covered with the power picks, and that's with a $2.12 ROI now, stretching over 4 years at this point, which is absolutely insane. 834 total picks throughout that time and still keeping a positive ROI. And that's only for $5 a weekend. We would greatly appreciate if you guys subscribe. And of course, they pay for themselves. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description of the YouTube video. And you can find previous editions of those power picks before you buy them. Or if you just want to learn more about the podcast, please go to hhhracingpodcast.com. Guys, I see a bunch of people in the chat. I greatly appreciate it. Obviously, a little bit of Derby hangover is going to affect this show, but if you guys are here and would love to talk in the chat, we would love to have you. Please, in the bottom right-hand side of the screen, whether you're on X or on YouTube, that is open for you guys to chat, and we do read every single one. Katie, Matt Miller, Mike Saletta, thank you guys all so much for joining early. We greatly appreciate it. Guys, we're going to go over a little bit on the Derby card. Patrick's going to talk about his first Derby and exactly how he did betting-wise, but also the full experience in the rainy confines of Churchill Downs. And, of course, Charlie Freeman's going to be here as well. So let's bring them on right now. From New Jersey, Patrick Consul, and, of course, from the Ohio State University, Charlie Freeman. Gentlemen, what's going on? Pat, how was it?
Oh, good to see you guys. It was good. Still a little bit of a hangover, but we're making it through. We had a great time. It was great company, and I got to experience what you guys got to experience 2 years ago, which I could never imagine as many people in one area than what it was. It's truly incredible. And that walkover that you guys were explaining to me and trying to picture it. It's just that's just unbelievable. Those fans thinking, whether you own horses or just congratulating you, it's great.
It's the best, dude. It really is. Chuckles, how we doing?
Yeah, good. I mean, technically, when you were saying from Ohio State, it's wild to say. I mean, I guess technically my journey's starting again, but it's technically now Ohio State graduate.
True.
Obviously, I don't know, how much the fans know, but I will be returning to Ohio State for 3 more years for law school. But yeah, I'm now done with undergrad back home and dealing with life after not being an undergrad, where I have to be an adult now. So
Yeah, of course, graduation. My bad. Now he joins the ranks, Patrick. Of course,
Yes, congrats, Charlie.
long time ago. It's a huge congratulations, of course, as it always is. Patrick, again, just want to go into a little bit more because we're going to recap the Derby a little bit and some other stakes races. Where were your biggest bets that you made? You don't have to obviously disclose how much information, but obviously the Derby, I believe you had Sovereignty on top, if I'm not mistaken. So like I said, just how did your betting go through both days, and what were the races that you kind of gravitated towards?
Yeah, Oaks Day was not very good, but I'd say Derby Day I did make out pretty well with the one horse that comes to mind is Think Big in the turf sprint. That was big for me. You know, the way that horse had that late kick, that horse has really come on to be a very, very good turf sprinter, probably one of the best in the country right now that we have. So that's one that I can say, was a bigger opinion of mine. You know, the Derby, I had Sovereignty on the win end, but I was a little careful in how much I put on that, just considering it is the Derby, and you know how it can be a crapshoot. But it's what great betting races. I mean, oh my gosh, some of those finishes at the wire. I mean, what was it? The Churchill Downs, the four horses across the wire. That was incredible.
Oh, I mean, look, it's Derby weekend. It's the weekend, and then obviously Belmont weekend will be the same way with all those types of stakes. With now horses coming out of this weekend will, of course, point to the month later Belmont Stakes weekend. Yeah, I kind of got sucked into that, and I'll talk about that in a second. Charlie, going to go to you next. Pat, I'm really glad you had a good time at the Derby, of course, and glad you were able to make out pretty decently. Charlie, talk a little bit about your Kentucky Derby and Oaks weekend, your betting, and how everything went for you.
Yeah, I didn't do so hot in terms of the feature races. I actually started incredibly strong, and it was kind of the reverse of last year to an extent, where last year I think I got sucked in the moment of my first time being at the Derby, was betting more aggressively than I should have and couldn't hit a pick, whereas this year I did really well on the non-feature, non-undercard stake races. My strong opinions all hit, so I had a really nice start, hit the early pick 3 pretty strongly. Then going later into the Oaks Day didn't really go well. I played some Oaks Derby doubles using good cheer, but outside of that, when I was playing my horizontals, as we kind of had talked about, kind of the same idea with journalism is for me, I was trying to beat good cheer in my horizontals, but then outside the Oaks Derby double, that was the only way I used her. So Oaks Day, after my hot start, quickly saw those winnings go away. And then Derby Day, didn't play the early races because I was on Ryan and Jackson's live stream till 8:30 in the morning, so I slept through the first few races. Then I got up. Didn't really play much earlier in the day. Then middle of the day did not go well. Unfortunately, what really kind of was the key in my day and had me falling apart was integration. That was the best bet I gave out. The late pick 5 ticket I gave out, had it not been for integration, I would have hit that. I played the Oaks Turf Classic Derby, like pick 3, which I would have hit. So I couldn't give a rough estimate. Probably would have made at least, I'd say, $2,000 or more if integration had one. So that sucked. And then, Sovereignty and the degenerate races playing the late pick 3, like the very late pick 3, starting with the Derby, saved my entire weekend because I hit obviously everybody knows I had Sandman as my Derby horse, which didn't work out for me, but my top pick was Sovereignty. So that was the one horse I really hedged on. So I played a big Oaks Derby double into Sovereignty. And then I hit the pick 3 playing really skinny, starting with Sandman and Sovereignty into 2 horses in the next races, which were Patch Adams and then some horse from Gulfstream that I really liked. So that kind of saved my weekend and got me up a little bit.
Some horse from Gulfstream. Don't you mean Big Truz?
No. I used Big Truz and Patch Adams in the second leg, and Patch Adams won. But then in the very last leg, it was a horse who ran in a massive a Gulfstream race that was really live. So that late pick 3 that I played skinny and really heavy kind of saved my weekend.
I was going to say, you got to at least mention Big Truz.
Big Truz ran his heart out by
He did.
He's going to be a special horse.
It did, and I've been waiting for them to turn back Patch Adams. So, and funny enough, that's one of the only bets I hit on Derby Day. You guys know my whole day really leveraged on one horse, and obviously that didn't work out for me. I was happy with the stand I took. I would have been alive probably somewhere $1,500, $1,300 if journalism had won that race. I got to where I wanted to be. It would have been more if integration, even taking Candy won, it would have been more. I played the Oaks Derby double with, I think about 3 horses. Good Cheer, of course, being leveraged the hardest just because of the way she was being slammed at the windows like we all thought. My top pick at the end of the day after everything ended up being Quiet Side on the day. She ran fine, just kind of faded back at the end. look, no one was beating Good Cheer that day, and that's the way it is. But I also played Take Charge Milady, who was my pick early in the week. Unfortunately, obviously, everything with her, she did not run to her liking. So was able to be alive there. I had I think I had a $50 Oaks Derby double. I had $25 of pick threes through integration, and I believe $5 of those $25 pick threes also included, taking candy. And like I said at the shows earlier, every single bet I was placing went through to journalism. And if journalism won, I was going to make money. Obviously, he didn't win, and it all came down to that at the end. 7-2. I may have gotten suckered a little bit, bringing me in, because 7-2 was way too good for me to not at least put a little bit extra on him. Unfortunately, of course, didn't work out for me. But again, got to take a stand somewhere. That was my biggest opinion, and I can't fault anything, really. I was just wrong. It's just the way it is. Can't be mad at, getting a bad trip or anything. Umberto did exactly what I wanted him to do and just didn't have it. Sovereignty was just the better animal that day, and that's the way it goes. But of course, guys, congratulations. You guys all cashed. I know a bunch of our co-hosts had Sovereignty on top, including, I believe, the two on the screen here. So congrats to you guys if you guys played along. Go ahead, Charlie.
I would say one other thing I just want to say, and obviously if either of you have an opinion, I'd love to hear what you have to say. The one thing I really liked in particular about this year's Derby is I thought, putting bias aside, because I know I had my biases towards Sandman, I thought the three best horses ran 1, 2, 3 in that race. I thought no horse got a significantly better trip where you're like, oh my God, that affected it. Or horses banging in, again, not trying to give us PTSD, but it wasn't, the two best horses in the field by a country mile banging into each other. It wasn't some underwhelming horse getting the absolute perfect ride by Brian Hernandez. I don't need to say the name, getting a perfect ground saving trip and then having to huff and puff and hang on by a nose. I thought we genuinely saw three horses dog it out. I thought Sovereignty and Journalism ran their hearts out, and I think they could be equal horses, but that day Sovereignty just executed better. That's how it was interpreted.
No, and I saw that a lot as well through a couple of people that I respect over on Twitter. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, right? Is when good horses get good trips, they show you what they have, especially in a race like the Derby, and they finish. But again, it's the Derby. Anything can happen, but I agree with you, Charlie. I think that's a really good point to point out. But guys, let's get into actually what we're supposed to be talking about today. And again, that's the late pick 5 for Gulfstream Park on Saturday. That is, of course, like I said, it's Royal Palm Juvenile Day. It's Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies, Royal Palm Juvenile that gets you a win and you're in ticket into Ascot, which the only horse that won last year that went was Gabaldon, I believe is how you say his name. And he actually ran second at Ascot. So don't completely write these horses off. Obviously, this is only the second year of them doing it, but obviously he ran very well last time. So cheers to everyone out there. Let's get this started. It starts in race number 6. And guys, we're not waiting we're not waiting too long to get into these races, as the Royal Palm Juvenile Filly Stakes is up first. And of course, since we don't have we're handicapping morning Gulfstream on a Wednesday, remember, we do not have morning lines, unfortunately, and we do not have numbers in the program. So, guys, as always, please try to say the numbers and horses' names as we go through this. But full field of 12 morning lines. Good luck. Good luck to Brian Nadeau, of course, good friend of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck to him making this morning line. It's always tough, but Lenny Lou, who won very convincingly down at Keeneland, is back in this race. Satisfy Mine for Wesley Ward's also back in this race. The half sister, to Fierceness is in this race for Todd Pletcher. A ton of very interesting contenders in here, and I'll switch our picks over right now. Charlie, you and I are going with Lenny Lou, the number 6, for obviously good reason. Patrick is going with the Wesley Ward, who Charlie and I both have in second. The number 4, Satisfy Mind. And Pat, I'll go to you first just because you are the differentiation of the group. But Satisfy Mind last time, even though she was on the wrong lead, Little Goofy still ended up winning by 3 1/4, and obviously looked well doing it. It's just a matter of, can't she put it to the turf? But obviously you have to trust Wesley in a place like this.
Yeah, she looked like she was definitely goofy, Kyle. You're right about that. Just the way her stride was, she looks like she should appreciate, the turf in here. Runaway winner in that Keeneland on debut on the 26th. Who, funny enough, Wesley Ward's been shut out of the last 2 years of the Royal Palm races when he had all the favorites. It was kind of bizarre to see. But I will say that the father of this horse was 4 for 4 on debut. And that was, I think, looking at it was going back to, I think it was like 2005. Looking back, I'm gonna side with the Ward here. And here, I am a little negative that Charlie doesn't have this horse on top. But tell me why the number 6 Lenilou is going to be a little bit faster.
Yeah, and obviously being the quote-unquote Ward guy, I can tell you honestly, Patrick, it's nothing that Satisfied Mind did wrong. Like for me, I have the 6 and 4 as, like, if we did ABC, those would be my 2 ways. It was more so, as Kyle kind of hinted at, I thought the debut of this 6 was very impressive visually. It's not so easy to, close in those kinds of races. It normally is, which is why Wesley is so successful in those 4.5 furlong sprints. It really normally is. Whoever clears and gets the lead is there. And you can see the 12 Daffy and Blue was a horse that got pounded as the Wesley Ward. And, especially in those stop conditions too, we weren't really seeing closing. It was kind of just, if you got to the lead, that was it. And this 5 was flying, looked to have plenty left. Just seems to be one that they have a lot of confidence in. And I also do like that Luis was aboard in that effort and comes over to Gulfstream. Even though I'm Mr. South Beach and I love to hype up my track, if I'm unbiased, I think we can all agree this isn't exactly, the time of year to be at Gulfstream. So I also just think intent-wise, the fact that Luis is traveling over, very likely, I think, is for this horse, which just screams even more intent. So I'm going to roll with this one. I think my only other slight concern, Patrick, is just the fact that Wesley doesn't have any of his personal jockeys going across. That being said, I will say I think Jaramillo and Zayas are the 2 Gulfstream jockeys to have here, and I'm not trying to make this jockey gymnastics. I just thought the debut was impressive, and I just think there's a lot of intent with Luis following this horse over here.
I'll tell you what, Charlie. I mean, this horse looked, above all else, very professional coming down the lane. And Cadabra, the horse that Lenilou just got past, actually came back to win the next time out in a 5 furlong at Aqueduct. Got a 66 buyer in that one for Pletcher. So obviously Cadabra might turn out to be a very nice horse as well, but not goofy like Satisfying Mind was down the stretch. On the left lead was the 4 in this race, but Lenilou right lead the whole time, sat in behind horses as well in the slop, was able to tip out and run down a very nice horse on the lead, at least early in her career. Not only that, but on a speed favoring track, as you mentioned as well, Charlie. So Lenilou, if she takes to the turf, which judging by the pedigree here, the Dam was a winner going 6 furlongs on the turf. So winning turf sprinting Dam as well. So I'm looking to Lenilou to continue that professionalism into this race. This horse off of that last race, Charlie, shipped straight down to Palm Meadows and ran on and worked out on the turf. So this seems to be trainer intent as clear as day for me that this was the spot they're targeting. And Luis Saez comes over here to ride as well, riding it lights out as can be. I really do like Lenilou in this spot, but I think Satisfied Mind, Wesley Ward always has to take consideration into here. Rogue by Quality Road, not 1 for 9 turf sprinting, but does have that 80 buyer on here. You can see it's Santa Anita on the West Coast. One on the lead, as this Wesley Ward I'm sure will do on Saturday with the best buyer in her career there. So definitely one at least to keep in mind is Satisfied Mind, but Wesley Wards are going to get pounded at the windows. Patrick, you and Charlie both have Nona's Love because it's Nona Bella. Nona's Love in third. This is a half to fierceness in this race. Of course, you can see the 111 buyer there. It's just a matter of this is a really interesting spot for a horse that's half to fierceness to be sprinting a flat 5 on the turf. Caravaggio has obviously done very well turf sprinting. You can see the 21% there, but again, just an interesting spot for a horse that has this type of pedigree.
Yeah, it is. Obviously a Rapoli homebred here, who Todd trains, pretty much all of these several generations of both the male and females, families of these horse, I'm not sure what to make. That last race at Keeneland, the horse got out of the gate very well, just was kind of outkicked late. So maybe just needed to start. You got to break in these races, as you guys know. I mean, it's key. So I think this is really intriguing. It's cool to see, this horse, be a sister to Fierceness.
Oh, I mean, Charlie, absolutely. You have this horse in third. The only thing is that obviously the only other horse that has run out of Nonabella has been Menti, that did actually win turf sprinting as well. So maybe that's a little bit something. That was a full brother to Fierceness. This is obviously a half sister, maybe to a sire that likes turf sprinting even more. Obviously, we showed the 21%. So maybe I'm overthinking a little bit, but none of them could be live.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing is just intent. I mean, I won't speak for both of you, but I couldn't tell you the last time I saw Pletcher and Rapoli. But even if you just say Pletcher, send a horse to Keeneland for a 4.5 furlong sprint to start out, that's just not typically what they do. So to me, when you're talking about intent, Kyle, I think that's why they sent her to that race, was to get her ready to then send her to this one. That just feels like the intent all along, because at the time when I saw that horse drawn at Keeneland, I kind of thought to myself, what is she doing here? Like, I know connection to Fierceness, and Fierceness is fast, but why wouldn't they be debuting her, going 6 furlongs at Gulfstream or in New York and then working such an out? Why are they running her so short? So to me, this just, again, feels like intent. And to be honest, when I looked at a lot of the other first-time starters, kind of opposite to the other feature that we'll get to at the end, but none of the firsters really jumped out to me, except for the two, although it was more about price tag. So I'm curious what you have to say about the two, Kyle, because I feel like it's not very common you see a horse of that price also being one that's pointed towards, turf sprints. You normally would associate this with like, a filly or colt for like the Oaks or Derby down the line.
Right. And obviously $1.35 million price tag, you can see right there. AMO Racing, Jorge Delgado, and Jose Morelos could be the way down the line, but this is a half, Charlie, to Forbidden Kingdom. So obviously in his heyday was a very good dirt sprinter, but did run 6.5 at Santa Anita and did win with Flavian Pratt aboard. So grade 2 winner, turf sprinting, obviously could do it both. Either way, I just know this horse is probably going to be fast out of the gate with those back-to-back 3 furlong works. Jorge Delgado is actually very good first time out. I can actually show you guys that right now. If you just go days between starts, first-time starters, 21%, 22 for 107. You bring it down to turf, I believe it gets the same thing. Yeah, 3 for 14. He's got the pie record in that regard. But again, just high price tag, half the Forbidden Kingdom, should be very fast out of the gate and should be a decent price comparatively to others in this field. Could have gone, obviously, known as Love, but wanted to at least spread it out a little bit and go with a horse that at least has a little bit promising of breeding. And, of course, with that price tag. But in the Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies, guys, we'll keep it going. I'm going 6-4-2. Charlie's going 6-4-5. Pat's going 4-6-5. Guys, moving into race number 7, it is a maiden special weight going 7 furlongs on the dirt. And as I switch over to the Equibase right now, you can see there's a field of 8 morning line favorite. Again, guys, you can take a wild guess on who it's going to be. This is a very even race, but I think it's going to go to the number 6, Humor Me Brother, off that last race, just losing to Our Pretty Kitty with a 96 time form speed figure. And I'll switch over our picks right now. Charlie, you and I are locked up again. I'm pretty good, and I'm pretty good company with Mr. South Beach if I'm going with the same horses as him. Patrick going off the beaten path a little bit, but going with a Saffie Joseph runner, of course, could be live down in South Florida. Pat, I'm going to let you go again just because you are the odd man out. What do you like most about Bon Vivant?
Yeah, I think Bon Vivant, first time out, going 6 furlongs. That was in the middle of March, during the championship meet, right? Right.
Just after, yeah.
Just after it. I ran against a quality field who I believe the winner came back to actually run second to Cassiar, who ran in the a bigger stakes race at Tampa that we covered actually. That I'm blanking on what it was, but what I'm trying to get to in here is I think Saffie is known to be better, second time out. He's got statistics that prove that. And I do feel I know it's going to have to vitally improve on the buyer level if you look at that. But watching that race, the horse did keep with it, ended up losing by 10, but did stay on with it. So I do think that there's more here. And I'm hoping Saffie will have this horse ready to go. But this is the type of race where I know you guys like the 1 we have to 6. But this is one of those where I can't wait to see what the board looks like.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I had to definitely include this horse at least in third. Was well backed, as obviously a lot of Saffies are. Got Tyler last time. Frank Arrieta is obviously not bad at all. I think he's actually very underrated. That has run at Hawthorne, has run at a lot of those Midwest tracks. So Arrieta is definitely one to look for. And I think he runs a lot down to Oaklawn, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, Charlie, you and I have Bottomless Mimosa. This will be second off the layoff and second on the training job for Antonio Sano. Lost last time to Reputation, who hasn't come back to run yet, but looks like a very promising runner for Gustavo Delgado.
Yeah, and that horse was heavily backed that day. I think I actually remember. I don't think I played that particular race, but I remember watching that one and just seeing that was a very well-meant filly who was expected to win and, set some pretty decent fractions on the lead too and one going away. That being said, no one else really in that field originally was really making up any ground, but Bottomless Mimosa was the one that was making up ground. And I just feel like if you look at some of the other fields she ran in, in her debut race, that was a loaded field with Stunner, Hey Everybody, and some others that were nice. And then, again, went to Churchill in a nice maiden special weight, then ran against, another higher level maiden special weight than this by a good amount against some other next time out winners. Then got major class relief last time, but first time off a massive layoff and took some decent money off the trainer switch to Antonio Sano, who I think is one of the better trainers at Gulfstream, especially during this time of year. And I just think in a race where it looks like there's plenty of horses that either, want to go or are more questions or have struggled with distance, I think Bottomless Mimosa is going to appreciate the stretch back out. Second time off the layoff is going to save all the ground on the rail. I just think there's a lot of reasons to believe that she can take steps forward. She also, for going for 165K is pretty well meant and keep Zayas aboard, which I think is important because he easily could have jumped to that Safi that Patrick just talked about. I just think there's a ton to like here, and I landed on her. And I don't know, like Pat said, this race board-wise could be interesting, but if I get a pretty square price on her, I definitely will be playing her.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking as well with Bottomless Mimosa. Those races were also 2 years old. This will be second time out at 3 for her, so she can easily take a step forward as she continues to mature. But again, this race is tough, as we've kind of hinted at multiple times here, but can definitely build off that 57. Pat, you and Charlie both have the number 4 here. I believe that's why do you guys always pick the hardest freaking names to pronounce?
I think it's Lawaluga or Lawalaga.
I think it's Lalauga, I think is how you say that, but I could be wrong. But anyway, Pat and Charlie, obviously feel free to hit on this as well. This is Gustavo Delgado, who's probably one of the most underrated trainers because he is a little bit of a smaller barn down at Gulfstream, but ran well on debut with during the championship meet with Sayas aboard. Came back off a little bit of a layoff. Not the best coming back, but again, could show all signs of improvement here. Unlucky. Unmute. There we go.
That took some time. Sorry. Yeah, that last race, that stumble at the start completely took her out of her rhythm. She tried to get back in the race, at the far turn and just nothing was there. So I chalked that race up to be, put a line in that one. But I don't know if you have anything else to say on her, Charlie, but I do think she'll get back to her form in this spot.
Yeah, well, a few things about her. Number one, I thought, that first race was, I know it only says 40,000, but during the championship meet, I think that plays higher. Justin Queso came back to be a nice horse. And then, last time out, I agree. They were flying already, but for her to have to try to then re-rush up after that stumble, I also think the blinkers on to help her focus. And also she's coming out of a live race. I don't know how live, but obviously Cat Jack came flying late, and I know Palm Desert won today at Horseshoe Indy because I played that horse for fun because I saw a Gulfstream horse run in Horseshoe, so I had to. But so obviously that race became even more live. I trust Gustavo Delgado, Edwin Gonzalez aboard again. I think the blinkers on will help her focus. Second time now as a 3-year-old, as you said, Pat, her race was kind of over before it started with that stumble. Again, I think the blinkers on will help. I think she'll take to the distance as well. I just think, similar to the one where I think there's just a lot to build on and improvement. I agree with you, Pat. I think you kind of just draw a line through that race, and there's a lot of reasons to believe that she'll improve.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you guys more. I don't have her anywhere, but can definitely see blinkers on as well. Go Sapper, Mare can definitely show all signs of improvement. But Humor Me Brother, Charlie, is the one that, and of course, Pat, feel free to jump in if you want. Michael Lerman is another one of those smaller barns, but still does win, hasn't had a winner yet. at the meet, but you see he's 4 for 39 on the year. This is a horse that ran super well against with Paco Lopez aboard last time. Gets Jaramillo, and he's one of my favorite jockeys to have on the lead. Be Thankful came back out after that race to win on the Tapeta and win very well out at Gulfstream Park. Our Pretty Kitty hasn't come back to run yet, but looks like another one for Safi that could be good down the line in that type Ramsey type line in there. But Humery Brother ran very well, just got caught late, maybe a little bit too early, but second time out should show an improvement and probably could be a very likely winner of this race, even though we're all going against her.
No, and I completely agree. I think part of the question, though, we will have to wonder going forward is what did she exactly run against, knowing that, she started outside the championship meet and in a maiden optional claiming. That being said, I think another positive, as you mentioned, is taking the step up now from, maiden optional claiming into a maiden special weight race to make sure it's not even possible for her to be in for the tag. I agree that she ran big. It is also a smaller barn. There's some questions. For me personally, and either of you can add on, my main concern with her is I have a feeling based off the figure. Now, maybe because of the smaller barn, not so much, but I feel she could get overbet in this race because of it. I agree with you that she will likely be the favorite. And I think in a race that could be this wide open and where we touched on reasons, for example, with the 1 and 4, for where there's reasons for optimism and reason to step forward, I would rather get a better price. But if she's a reasonable price, I'd absolutely play her. She's one you have to use horizontally, though, regardless.
I couldn't agree with you more. Anyone else in this race doesn't surprise me. Patrick Littledew, thanks so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. He says, Vasquez, staying on the 2, who is Dance to Remember, definitely a major improvement. And that wasn't from 2 to 3 either. That was just straight up from the trainer switch and back onto the dirt. So she can definitely take a step forward. Another very small barn for Cam Gambelotti. So like I said, this is just a completely wide open race. And coming from, if you feel very strongly about a horse in the Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies, this could be a very good opportunity to make some money off of a double. But guys, we'll keep it moving here. And it's next to everyone's favorite time of the day. So on race number 7, I'm going 167. Charlie's going 164, and Pat's going 746. Guys, again, I hinted at it a little bit, but it's time for everybody's favorite time of the show. It is the $10,000 Tapeta. It's been so long since we've been able to say that, but going 1 mile and 70 yards, of course, on the Tapeta track, but draws a full field of 12 as these races usually do. But man, is this race, it's tough, even though our picks don't actually show it. We kind of see a 2-horse race between all of us. Pat and I are agreeing, going with the number 10, Indy Lion, Romero Moran, Rohan Crichton. On the 10, the Florida bred, and Charlie's going with the number 5, Ernesto, for Jose Trejos and Bobby DeBona. Charlie, you are the odd man out, so you will go first. What made you gravitate towards Ernesto? He's been pretty much a mainstay of this type of division, but he's also run very well and everyone's favorite part of the day.
Yeah, well, the one thing I wanted to highlight that I just love is we just went from covering 2 very optimistic, building off young, bright careers. So now we're getting to under the road horses that are all 7, 8, 9. And I just love that we have a race in this card where the 2 future races are, 2-year-olds that we don't know anything about. So now these where we know just about everything there is. Yeah, with Ernesto, for me, I like that. For starters, he's a main staple, here at Gulfstream. I love that his buyers are just incredibly consistent. Even as he's gotten older, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a mid-70 from him, which is good for this field. Also, I know he hasn't worked, since his last 2 efforts, but at the time had been working pretty well. And I also just like that they, moved him up a little bit. He was running and claiming 10,000 for a while, then moved up to an allowance race, then moved up to an optional claiming as well, and now back to the 10,000. I don't know exactly the details at this stage of a horse's career for conditions, but I'm guessing that's part of it as well. But again, it's just ultra consistent. I also like with his stalk and trip that kind of works out nicely. Is a big issue when we get to these horses is they don't necessarily have the ability to pass, as we talk about. It's kind of just wherever they are, they're stuck. And so I like with Ernesto that I know I don't have one that might just speed and then fade, but I also don't have one where I have to hope as a 7-year-old is going to clunk up past the whole field. I know I'm going to get a nice stalking trip. And again, I also just think DeBona is a very solid trainer here. So I'm going to take a shot with Ernesto to just bring back another victory.
I mean, look, DeBona is definitely one to be recognized. 5 for 34 on the Tapeta, but all his wins in his career have run on the Tapeta. You see 5 for 34 on the Tapeta, but 5 for 47 lifetime. So look, makes sense. And he's still running consistent low 70s, which is probably good enough to win this race. But again, that he's probably going to be the favorite, if not one of the close ones. It's just.
Oh, by the way, all nine of his seconds, by the way, are also on the Tapeta. I just want to point that out.
That's a very also good point. So he's made his home correctly here on the Tapeta, but man, it's this race. Mike Soletta said it best. A blind dart throw in race 8 can easily turn into that for sure. Indy Lion Pat is the horse we have on top. Close from the clouds with Joe Bravo last time. Not sure that that's exactly what this horse wants to do, but the fact that he ran on late, this is another one who's 8 for 48 in his 7-year-old lifetime, 2 for 16 on the Tapeta, but almost half the times in the money. Romero Mara hops aboard on this one, and it's kind of just, I'm trying to pick and choose here, but has the best buyers as of late, and Crichton we trust.
Yeah, exactly. And his run, at this level, this 10K claiming level, has run not bad, hitting the board previously at this level the last 2 times. I'm just trying to find something in the sand here. I think this is a race, where Indy Lion, I would assume, be the second or third choice.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm not really going to get too cute in here. We'll see in our best bets. I'm completely dodging this race, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you guys. There's no way I could play the pick 5 with this race.
Somebody say all button?
No, yeah, but you're taking 12 as an all button, so it's
no, you're not wrong.
It's tough, guys. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat it for you here on this show. It's just, it's not very good, and it's very tough.
But they're very honest. I'll tell you what. You know what you're getting. One other thing I will say about the 10 that's a positive, Kyle, if you could just pull up the replay, not to watch, but just to double check. I believe that last time that horse was also coming out of the 13 hole, if I'm remembering correctly, which is not an easy post position to navigate, especially at this level.
Right here, the 12.
Oh, okay, there you go. So I think that's just one of the positives. It might be part of the reason why he was sitting farther back than usual.
Yeah.
I don't think these are the horses exactly at the town to be like, oh, let's just send like hell.
Also in the parking lot, if I remember correctly, like on the first turn. Yeah, I mean he's
so that's what I was
going
to say. I think that's another huge positive on that horse. Moving into the 2, because I know I'm the only one who has this one anywhere. Belly of Jelly, another one who's just honest here. Another one who actually, I didn't even mean to do this, but all 3 wins, all 4 times second and both times third are all on the Tapeta. So I guess I just chose horses who only run in this case scenario.
Well, the only time he hasn't run on Tapeta are the 2 turf races on our screen.
Exactly.
And
oh yeah, you're not wrong. But no, what I would say with Belly of Jelly is where I was saying for some of these other horses at this level, how they really don't pass. The one thing I do have to give him credit for, maybe it's because he's a young gun relative in this field at 5, is he does pass. You look at his race in November of 24 where he was 7th and flew by the field to win. I don't think he's going to be fast enough, and as he's getting older and his buyers are regressing, to necessarily get there to win. But I just do like that he's one of the few that has shown the ability to pass, and you should get a square price on. So I absolutely think he at least makes sense for 3rd. And yeah, look, if you're going to spread in the pick 5 and don't want to go all button, I think he's one of the ones to use, including the 5 and 10 and probably the 7 you guys have as well.
Yeah. And there's just so many different win conditions you can make for a lot of these different horses. Pat, last horse we'll talk about is Light Fury. And when we talk about, I'm going to bring up the time form base projector. Because in races like this, I think it makes even a bigger difference. They do have the 7 on lead and a fast pace. The 10 being that close would actually make me a lot stronger of an opinion on the 10, just because I feel like that if he sits there, the 12 is also, but I don't know if he's as fast as that. If it's 7-10 around the track, I would be delighted in a race like this where, have so many questions on so many different horses. But Light Fury, I mean, if he gets the lead, he's very dangerous.
Yeah, he's gotten courageous on the lead in a couple starts. Was in a different barn at the time, but has shown to run well. On the lead here for this 8-year-old, who is just who's been actually halfway consistent considering the 46 starts in here. But I'm gonna try and dodge this race, like I said.
Edwin Gonzalez is back aboard this horse again, which of course is a very last time out was the first time out for Carlos David. Puts him right back in this spot. I just realized my top 3 is 7 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, if you're keeping track at home, by the way. But yeah, Pat said Light Fear has gotten very courageous on the lead. If he does it again, look out for this one. But again, we could say that for so many different horses in this one, it feels like. But guys, we'll move on. Race number 8, I'm going 10-7-5. Charlie's going 5-10-2. Pat's going 10-5-7. Guys, moving over on to race number 9. This is actually probably one of the it's actually a really nice race.
Yeah,
as
this
I switch
is a
over
much more enjoyable
to allowance optional 62.5 going a mile on the turf. It's a field of 8 in this one, and the morning line favorite is going to be somewhere between the number 5 D Regresso, Do Gooder, the number 3, and I'd probably Violet Gibson, the Safi, number
2,
7.
that's a former Chad.
True, correct, for Sam Walensky. Bring up the picks right now. Pat and I are both going with the number 3, Do Gooder, Jose Morelos, and Jenna Antonucci. Charlie's going with the number 5, D Regresso. And Charlie, I'll let you go first. Obviously, you are the odd man out here, but I'll show the pace projector when we talk about it, because I feel like that's going to be a big basis for Pat and I's pick.
Yeah, no, and I feel the same way. I mean, we'll get to best bets later, but I think this is a race where honestly you could probably just go 5-3 on your ticket and move on if you are playing this pick 5. Look, De Regresso is a horse that I actually think is really nice and like a lot. Obviously, had a few duds, but if you look at it, she was running against way better, right? Like her 42, she was running against Gray Ocean. She feels pretty and dynamic pricing. She had no business being in that race. And then you look at her buyer where she ran her 20 again in a grade 2 on Pegasus weekend. It's really just in the races where she's ran against way better that she hasn't done running. That being said, I mean, even then in the Lake George, when she ran against Pounce and oversubscribed and Viv Verve, she still ran a decent 6 by only 3 lengths. And when she's run against, these more optional claiming levels or lower stakes levels, she has plenty of wins at this level. I think she makes a ton of sense. This is second time off the layoff now. Ran against Ozara and Breathway were the 2 Clements that were taking all the money. And I thought honestly ran decent in what was a race where she was pretty forwardly placed in a hot pace and still stayed on for a piece, which I thought was a decent effort. Now, second time off the layoff, got some class relief. And I have a feeling that she's just going to work out that perfect trip where she sits right off of Do Gooder and just makes sure to not let her get too loose. And my only concern, and I'll let you guys end, granted, again, I would go 5 on all my tickets, is that Do Gooder got some really soft fractions and didn't really get away. Like, she won, and fair enough to her, but she didn't really get away, which made me a little concerned, because I feel like if she tries to set fractions like that again, which I think she could get away with, that De Regresso won't let her get away and will go by. But I think it's mainly these 2, but I'm curious what you guys think.
My only concern with De Regresso is this is a pretty quick turnaround. That's my only thing with, I would definitely have the 5. I mean, you're coming off of like 13 or 14 days, because last time she ran was on April 26th off that layoff, and now she's coming back, May 10th, I believe is going to be the date on Saturday. So, that's 14 days. So that's going to be the one concern, but obviously De Regresso can win. I completely echo that everything Charlie did say. And Pat, I'll pull up time for him because I feel like that's going to be a big thing for you as well. But Do Gooder, the number 3, who you and I both have on top. If this does materialize based on time form's projection, I mean, Do Gooder is very, very could be very, very tough in here.
Yeah, I just, Charlie brings up a good point. I did watch the last race, and it did kind of look visually slower with the way the pace, ended up being. But that was early on. They did start to quicken up a little bit, throughout the race. And I do think there really shouldn't be a change in here. Get this horse to the lead and see how long you can take him. And obviously this horse is quality, so it's not like me and you were trying to pick hairs here and trying to find a price. It's pretty simple. And I do prefer that, Kyle. I don't know about you. I feel more confident in having a horse that I know is going to go to the front here and has shown talent in doing so.
Yeah, and like you said, the 24 for Gulfstream is definitely soft, but they went 47 flat and 109 and 4, so picked it up a little bit.
And that turf is not to cut you off.
No,
that turf is not turf.
No, it's a little more closer to derf, as our good friend Paul Halloran would say, where the derf meets the derf, or no, where the dirt meets the dirt. That was the Churchill saying when they got rid of their turf course in the summer. But look, they picked it up a little bit, and that was also off a 6-month layoff as well, guys. So the fact that she grows to an 85, first time out at 4, now second time off that layoff, looks to be, and getting a little bit more, getting about 3.5 to 4 weeks in between those two races as opposed to the 5's 2 weeks. I like do-gooder, especially if she's going to get on the lead. And granted, this is maybe a little bit of a step up comparatively to what she's running, but she's shown every single sign that she might be able to handle this with another very favorable pace scenario up front. But Charlie, I do agree that I think it's either 3 or 5. You can see we have a ton of different horses underneath. I have Chick Shadow, who has shown the ability and ran very well last time in the Distaff Turf. It's the State Bred Stakes down at Tampa, with Mohawk Trail winning that, who definitely is a very nice horse. Charlie has the number 2, Diamatrona, in second. Previous Chad runner Sam Malinsky here takes up the training. One that's going to be closing a little bit, might have a little too much to do late, but I want to move on to the last race because that is also the Royal Palm Juvenile. And the number 7, Violet Gibson, that Patrick has in third. Looks a little slow, but of course, Safi's always dangerous. Edgard Zayas picks up the mount as well, who I believe Lionel Reyes won on debut with this horse, but the only win since has been with Edgard Zayas aboard. So Violet Gibson definitely one to keep in mind. However, it's going to be another one closing, and there might just not be the pace to do so. I'm going 3-5-4 in race number 9. Charlie's going 5-3-2. Pat's going 3-5-7. Guys, moving on to the co-feature on the day is the Royal Palm Juvenile. Again, flat 5 on the turf for 2-year-olds. Draws another full field of 12. Everyone trying to punch their ticket into Ascot here. And your guys' guess on this race for morning line favoritism. Again, good luck to good friend of the HHH Racing Podcast, Brian Nadeau. You can see the field on your screen there. You have a Wesley Ward and the number 6, Fuzzy Stare, who actually didn't start at Keeneland, but of course we'll get to that. I Think I Can, Romero Mara, and Todd Pletcher in there as well. Squire, Patrick Biancone, Luis Saez, that Charlie and I like that combination in the Phillies race. Let's see who we like. I have the number 9 on top. I Think I Can, the Pletcher trainee. Charlie is going with the Wesley Ward this time, and Amisaya Jaramillo aboard the number 6, Fuzzy Stare. Pat's going with the number 1, Sandal Song. Pat, I'm going to let you go first because neither one of us have the one anywhere. So actually very interested to hear what you like about the number 1, Sandal Song, George Weaver, and Luca Panici.
Yeah, listen, George Weaver's been known, and I know he's got one in the Phillies as well. He's been known to try these races to get over to Ascot. Did sweep, I believe it was 2 years ago, both these races. And Governor Sam and No Name Mets, when I looked it up, were the two. So it was kind of funny to see, those two were runners in this. Didn't win, I don't think, but did run and then end up, obviously getting better. But I just really like the numbers here for first-time starters. On the turf for George Weaver. He's hitting at 33% and 54% in the money with firsters on the turf here. So, I'm going to take a shot. The rail does not do me any favors, but in a race where you're going to have to show speed, why not? And I do think I'm going to get around 10-1 on this source.
Then that's what I was going to say. The rails, I don't like the rails necessarily for 2-year-olds either, but the fact of a race that's flat 5, and you got to get out there. If this horse is quick early, Sandal Song can easily take the rail the whole way home. Charlie and I are going different directions, but do like your opinion with Sandal Song and good stats for George Weaver. Charlie, you're going with Fuzzy Stairs, the Wesley Ward horse again. All of us have him somewhere. Definitely have to respect him, although it's going to be bet, as you know. But you are the Wesley guy, so what do you like about Fuzzy Stare?
Yeah, I got to be honest. This year's Royal Palm races yearly remind me of last year's, where in one of the races I loved Bullet, if you guys remember, that gray horse who went on to win. And then I had said in the other race, I have no idea, and it could be a number of them. And I was right in the one where I said I had a strong opinion, and then I was wrong in the one where I said it could be a number of them. For me, I really like the horse Kyle that we have in race 6, and we'll get to our best bets later. In this race, I think it's wide open. That being said, again, I feel like the common theme of these two races has been intent. Wesley had, as you guys know, had plenty of horses run at Keeneland, right? He has plenty of horses that are working in Kentucky and Florida, getting ready to potentially set up for this race. And I think the fact that he chooses to not go with 2 horses who have already run before, which is what he's done every time that we've covered this race, and that he could have picked from the number of different horses he has, and he chooses to go with a first-time starter, that piqued my interest. 100%. That makes me think if this is one that he didn't want to run at Keeneland, that he was waiting exactly for this race, that despite, I get not all of his horses won at Keeneland, but there were definitely other options he could have chosen from that one or that ran nice enough there that he could have gone with, and he chooses a firster. Completely piqued my interest. So I am going to put this one in top here. I think if you're playing this race horizontally, you have to go much deeper than the other leg, and I would definitely use the Ward. That's what I'm mainly relying on. Also, the sire, I believe, actually won at Ascot. If you can pull that up, I'm not positive. I believe this horse had won second time out at Ascot. Yeah. Did this horse? Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Third time out at Ascot.
Third time, sorry. But yeah, that this horse did go on to win at Ascot, which is another thing I keyed it on. So this is the Ward I'm more interested out of the two. That being said, I also would say in the first leg I'd use the two Wards. So that's how I landed on that one. Before I go into my others, Kyle, I'm curious if you or Patrick have anything else to say about Fuzzy Stare.
The one thing I will say, Hootenanny, though, is 1 for 37 on the turf sprinting. However, it's funny enough that is the horse's best buyer, that the best progeny buyer that Hootenanny has as well. So take that with a grain of salt, of course. But Wesley Ward can train him, of course, just like the best of them. Bistro Moncur, the dam, was actually a turf sprinter in her own right and won at Gulfstream Park multiple times at this flat 5. Also, this horse is a half to Blackfoot Daisy, who broke her maiden going 5 at Gulfstream Park with an 87 buyer and winning by 5. So obviously Wesley knows how to get there. I don't know if it's because this horse has been at Keeneland. Obviously, all of Wesley's horses, they all stable at Keeneland. They all work. I don't know if he was trying to get a race at Keeneland for this one beforehand, to try and prep for a race like this. As you mentioned, Charlie, that's usually what he does with these races, at least last year. It's a bit interesting that this horse shows up as a first-time starter after working for so long.
Right.
Pat.
Well, but that's the only reason I was. Oh, sorry, Pat. I was going to say real quick. That's the only reason why I just maybe a little more interested is like, well, then if that was the case, why risk that in a race like this when you have so many others that have run you could have chosen? But yeah, sorry, Pat. Go ahead.
No, and it's not pushing back on your comment, Charlie, about pointing to this race. I just wonder if Wesley has these winners that have won at Keeneland that he knows he's taking to Ascot already, and is saying with this horse, you know what? Let's see if we can win this in this race, get all paid expenses, and hey, it's we find a way. But listen, I have this horse at second. I'm hoping that this horse is the goods, and we'll get all paid expenses to Ascot.
Yeah, I mean, look, it always helps no matter what when you can get all expenses paid to wherever you're going. I went with I Think I Can, guys, and this is obviously a very soft pick. I already don't like turf sprints in general, as you guys all know. You add 2-year-olds into the mix, and man, it can get really interesting. I Think I Can, though. Rapoli actually privately bought this horse. This is a Lopa de Vega, and that's my one thing that I'm interested and concerned with at the same time. Lopa de Vega has been absolutely fantastic as a sire so far. However, it's been turf routing that's been this horse's specialty, not sprinting. You see 10% on the sprinting side, but if you go back, there's Star Spangled Banner in the it's a Star Spangled Banner mare, which of course we can't get because this horse ran overseas. However, Star Spangled Banner was a very nice turf sprinter in his own right. Of course, multiple grade 1 winning on the turf sprint side. So there's just a ton of things that you can like. It's just, look, you gotta throw a dart. It's got to land somewhere. And the fact that Pletcher's putting this one in here, he's been running horses still at Gulfstream Park over the summer, has been running very well. Obviously not the most speed in the works, but if this one starts taking a little bit of money, which I think he will, or she will, actually against the boys, which is actually, I didn't notice that before right now, to be completely transparent. So
they want to split them up.
He did want to split them up. That's actually a very good point, Pat. And that could argue better confidence in this one as opposed to the one in the Phillies race by herself. So I Think I Can is a very interesting horse in this race for me. Charlie, we have a comment in the chat from Patrick Little that says the 3 has shown speed in the works. That's the horse you have in second with Win and Juice. One of 2 in here for the new sire win.
Yeah, and that's what I keyed in on. Win does tend to produce those faster horses, and that's what I was looking for. Again, compared to the other race, this one, and we can get to because I'd love to touch on it because I know you guys have Squire, get to the horses who have run. I personally visually was not impressed or time-wise with any of the horses who have run before, so I was deciding to go fully into firsters, and that was my angle here, sort of. what we touched on in the first leg. I forgot what it was, but somebody had picked the horse because the horse is working pretty fast. And that's how I landed on winning Juice. I think this race is wide open. I just wanted to take some chances on some firsters. I know because it is Nolan Ramsey, this horse is going to get bet to an extent. But he's just working so fast with those bullet works that I'm just going to take a chance in a race that's wide open and where it could just be whoever gets to the lead just wires them. And kind of just the opposite of the 9 where I have concerns that horse is overbet and wants further. I feel like this horse is just screaming sprinter, and that could work out in this one's favor.
I mean, could easily do. The only horse I like that did run was Squire, the number 4, who ran at Gulfstream at 4.5. Beating the other one in this race with the best name in the whole field, Beers on me. But 54 seconds for 4.5 is definitely not on the faster side. I will say that, but showed the ability to rate and pass horses, which is one thing I really like. And coming into this race, has the bullet workout on the turf as well. So get Saez aboard as the other Biancone does. Definitely feel a lot stronger over the last one as opposed to this one. But Squire, if the pace does absolutely keyed up, which it could, these 2-year-olds with them, a lot of them being first-time starters, getting a little green, something like that. Definitely think Squire could at least pick up some pieces in your exactas, trifectas. Noah, you're a moron. I'm just going to be honest with you. You're kind of a moron, but we all love you for that regard. Charlie, last horse we'll bring up, Arkadelphia, was the horse you have in third with Luis Mendez and Channing Gill. Is it Channing Gill? I don't even know. That's my apologies. But Charlie,
no, I was going to say, can you pull up the dam for this one real quick? I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that's what I keyed in on, the dam for this horse. I want to say
Cipriano Gill. Sorry, it's Cipriano Gill and Channing Hill. Those are the 2 jockeys I just got mixed up there. Go ahead.
I was say if you could pull up the dam for this one real quick. I believe, that's what I had keyed in on, was that this one had done some sprinting, kind of did the similar route, right, where this one went to actually was a Wesley Ward horse. That's why I had keyed in on this one. Ran at Keeneland, right, won on debut impressively, then was sent straight to Ascot. I understand, didn't get the job done, but has that history. Then came back to do more sprinting at Keeneland and ran well. So I just like the breeding there. I think the main concern is obviously the works aren't incredibly fast, but you will get a strong, a solid price on this one. It is out of a sire who's connected to Warfront, who I know you and I, Kyle, love when it comes to turf. And again, the mom is a horse who did this exact style, so I like that as well. And if you're connected to a Wesley horse in these sprints, I think that is something to at least acknowledge.
No, I don't disagree with you at all. Again, I definitely feel stronger about the juvenile fillies rather than this race, but
so that's why I went price shopping underneath.
But this race, you should be able to get at least a decent price, no matter who you like, because I think this one's a less top heavy than the juvenile fillies is. But in the Royal Palm Juvenile, you're winning your in Ascot race at Gulfstream Park. I'm going 9-4-6. Charlie's going 6-3-8. Pat's going 1-6-4. Pat, you only have one best bet, although it's the one you feel strongest about. Talking about Do Gooder, a horse that you and I liked on top. And going into the Royal Palm Juvenile, again, a race I just said you're going to get some decent prices no matter where you look, including with your top pick, the number 1 Sandal Song, but also throwing in Fuzzy Stare, the Wesley Ward.
Yeah, I think Do Gooder in the allowance race, I'm pretty confident can get the lead in there and hopefully can take them all the way, as you said, Kyle. And then, in this juvenile race to close out the sequence, I'm going to have a price in my double, but I also think the 6 will obviously be, pretty heavily bet on. So I'm going to try and weigh my opinion in there to hit a certain price point. And then my second, I guess we could call best bet, is going to be just a little thing about the Derby that I forgot to mention at the beginning, and I'll be quick. I was walking back to our seats, where we sat, where the media is, and how the guys walk around with all the drinks, the mint juleps, and you could just tip them or whatever. Well, the one guy, my hands were full, and I really wanted a mint julep, so I had to put my stuff down. And he saw our credentials and he said, the HHH Racing Podcast. And I said, yeah. I'm like, let me get a business card out. So I give him a business card that says Bettin N Boozin on it. And the the laughter and yell that came out of his mouth with the Bettin N Boozin, I wish I could have taped it because it would have been perfect to tape on this show. But it was just something I had to say because it was really cool to see, and that just a great week at Churchill, but a great show with you guys tonight. And I just wanted to bring that up.
No, I mean, I loved it. The interactions when you get with the bet, like even with people that I don't know, like they just ask me like, "Oh, what's your podcast? You have a podcast?" And I always say the line I always say it's the two things everyone loves to do. We love to bet and we love to booze. It's Bettin N Boozin. So no, I love that. And I love that you're using the business cards I gave you, Pat. So that's also a double.
I would have been in trouble if I didn't. I got warned multiple times.
There we go. See, and we're back. There we go. Anyway, good luck with your best bet, Pat, in race number 9. Charlie, moving on to you. You have 2 best bets, technically 3, I guess, if you want to go there because you're an overachiever. Race number 6, taking the number 4 and 6 on the Royal Palm Juvenile Fillies. That is the Wesley Ward Satisfied Mind. And our top pick of Lenny Lou, singling the number 1 Bottomless Mimosa in the main special weight, going 7 furlongs on the dirt in race 7. And in race number 9, he talked about it a lot, win on the number 5, De Regresso, and an exacta De Regresso over Do-Gooder.
Yeah, so again, for me, it's all about intent, which I feel like is a lot easier to read into in the first leg, where, again, I think that's the horse Luis Saez came in for. That horse who's the 4, the 6 who was the 5 on debut in that replay you watch, just looks so professional. And then that Ward, I know, got a little goofy, but you have to imagine that's the one who's going to make the lead and has to be caught. So I'm using those 2 into the 1 Bottomless Mimosas, who you and I talked about, Kyle, seems to have a lot of potential and reasons to step forward, is going to get the setup and save all the ground. And then the reason I gave 2 in the De Regresso race is I don't know if De Regresso is going to be the favorite or Do-Gooder is.
Yeah.
So just in case I'm giving out like a chalk horse who ends up being, 2 to 1, I want to at least give value because that's what we talk about here. So De Regresso is my win bet if you're getting at least, I'd say 3 to 1 or 5 to 2. And then if you're not, then a straight exact to 5-3. I really think it is one of those 2, and horizontally I just use those 2. But I'm just banking on De Regresso sitting just off like we saw in time form, but staying close enough to go by and hit that stone cold.
Look, easily could, but there's two horses I agree with in that race. Just a matter of picking one and running with it. Good luck, Charlie, with your best bets. 2 win bets for me, guys. Keep it short and sweet. Might be the favorite in the first race, but I really like Lenny Lou and how she showed the ability to professionally go by those horses in the 4.5 furlong Keelan race. If she can sit a stalking trip again from a even better post, arguably, than last time, I think Lenny Lou is probably my most likely winner on the day and definitely my irresponsible wager of the week. But race number 9, Do-Gooder, we talked about it a lot. Probably 2, somewhere around 5 to 2 or 3 to 1 best bets for me. But all you need is one of those, and you make profit on the entire day. So 2 win bets for me on the day at Gulfstream Park for Saturday, May 10th. But guys, that is going to do it. Really appreciate everyone joining in. I know obviously a lot of hangover from the Derby, but everybody, we're head-to-head in race 9, Matt. I do like that. I do like that idea. So maybe we'll try and chop it up with Charlie here afterwards. But guys, really appreciate all the support. Again, I know it's after the Derby, a little bit more of a downtime before the Preakness, but there's always races to bet on and there's always booze to be drank. So really appreciate everyone joining in to the show, and stay tuned for tomorrow. Picks and Ponies at 8 p.m. Eastern, covering a really nice Belmont at the Big A card with multiple grade 2 and grade 3 stakes. And after this finishes, go on to last night's show for Pacific Horseplayers with Noah, Ryan, and Jackson covering the late pick 5 at Santa Anita. But for my calls, Patrick Kunsel and Charlie Freeman, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 129 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering Royal Palm Juvenile Day at Gulfstream Park with winning you're in for Royal Ascot. But until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.